Hello, and welcome to the Film School Snobs podcast. I'm Alexander Sabetta,
And I'm Jalen Michael.
and this is now episode 14, right?
Wow. Yep.
Okay, we got to the point where I'm starting to lose track, so
Yeah.
that means we're not
Same.
giving up for a while.
Yeah. Going strong.
Yep. Jalen, how's your week been?
It's been a roller coaster of a week. I'll say that much. So much news that has me feeling all sorts of way, and so many announcements too. But starting back schools, so I can let
Yeah,
all that go now.
yeah, the Film School Snobs are now going back to school.
Yep.
Yeah, that should be fun. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I've had some friends I want to catch up with, and like I'm looking forward to like more structure in my life. That's
Yeah.
what school gives me. Um, But then, like, I think about, like, oh man, I got papers I gotta write. I've got projects I gotta work on. Like, but,
Internships. It's a
oh yeah,
lot.
yeah. So yeah, school. We start that as of right now. We start the following day on Monday, so it should be fun.
Yep.
Um,
That shouldn't change up our release schedule for these videos either.
Hopefully not. Hopefully, I mean, we might like, maybe we'll take a week off if he's like focus on like finals or more terms or whatever.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're hoping to like keep this going. I mean, these are pretty easy to make and edit, so.
Yep.
So for this week's episode, we're gonna talk about some news that came out between Sony, Disney, and Spider-Man. Poor Spider-Man. And then we're gonna review some of the movies that came out this weekend, and then we'll go into what we saw over the week. So recently, Sony pulled out of the Disney deal that they had going on, and Spider-Man will no longer be in the MCU. Jalen, what are your thoughts on this?
Why? This honestly, this when was this announced? Like this Tuesday, this past Tuesday, this week.
I believe so.
It ruined my whole week, man. We talked about it on the show. Had a whole episode where we talked about where I said that this was my favorite iteration of Spider-Man ever. And yeah, to see, well, I guess the news is that as of now, Tom Holland will still be Spider-Man, at least for one more movie, just that he won't be a part of the MCU. Yeah, it's devastating to me. I'm still pissed off about it.
Um, I could really care less, surprisingly. I'm like I said, I'm not a big fan of this version of Spider-Man.
Hmm.
And to be honest, I'm more interested in seeing what they do with Spider-Verse than they do with like the MCU version of Spider-Man because I feel like that's a better iteration.
Right.
I just find like the behind-the-scenes politics like way more interesting than like the actual like, oh well, we got another Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it's the behind the scenes stuff. So we'll say as of now, we're still getting reports because the negotiations are still going on. And we haven't really got like a real solid confirmation on what Disney and Sony are offering to each other. But when the news first broke, it was about Disney seeking for a 50-50 co-financing stake.
hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that was a bit too greedy for Disney, or do you think that's a fair uh, asking price?
Too greedy is like the definition of Disney. That's what they are. Even like a lot of stuff, like they just bought 20th Century Fox because hey, they want it all. They're like trying to limit like password sharing with Disney Plus. But it's like, how am I supposed to share this with my family? Like, fine, whatever. But yeah, Disney they reached the point where like they're very greedy. They want it all, and they think they can push anyone around. So in that sense, I side with Sony. 50-50 was too much. I think there was another report recently that said like instead of asking for like 25 or 30%, I think that's a lot more reasonable than
Mhm.
50-50. Because one thing I will say is that the MCU is the reason why this iteration of Spider-Man is so successful. Successful,
Mhm.
even Far From Home, we've had so many Spider-Man movies, and he's been such a popular character, and yet this is the first one to make a billion.
Billion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's what I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Because I think 50-50, I heard that. I was like, oof, that's really aggressive from Disney, but not to be unexpected. But yeah, Variety and I think the Hollywood Reporter, they reported they got updated sources that said it was actually more 30% that they're asking for. And another thing that not a lot of people know, as far as co-financing stake, it's not just that they would receive that percentage of the profits. They'd actually put that percentage, spend that money going into the budget.
Mm.
Um, But yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's like, yeah, Disney, this really will not hurt your pockets at all. Like, just this year alone, you guys had like 6 movies that broke $1 billion. So, Spider Man making money, that's not really putting a dent in you guys at all. But on the flip side, though, like you were saying, the reason why these iterations of Spider Man is so successful, I think it's because Disney's doing most of the heavy lifting here. Kevin Feige and Marvel, they're laying down all the groundwork for Spider-Man to be in this universe and crafting these stories together. Essentially, they're giving Sony, free billions of dollars at the box office. So I think it's actually fair for them to renegotiate for another deal, but that's just from an outsider looking in
Yeah,
perspective.
I definitely agree. Like yeah, Kevin Feige and all the producers and behind the scenes of Marvel, like they are putting in a lot of work to make this version of Spider-Man interesting.
Mm,
So like they do deserve some sort of compensation. But maybe instead of it going like directly to Disney, maybe like you just like pay the producers directly, or I don't know. I don't know how all this works.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it seems like Disney like they tried to ask for so much. I even heard reports that they were like asking for creative say in like the Spider-Verse movies and Venom,
Mm,
which like that's like their own things. Like Sony's making a profit off that. It's like I think that's definitely going way too far.
right.
And I just find this whole scenario interesting, especially when you consider that Spider-Man is like the only successful franchise that Sony has. Every other
Hmm.
attempt they've had at like making a franchise, it really hasn't worked out so far.
Nah.
Other than James Bond and like the Jump Street movies, where like they're done with the Jump Street.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Sony. In some ways they shot themselves in the foot, but in other ways like they stood up for themselves. It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's funny. That's like the whole narrative going around. They stood up for themselves, and I definitely do give them props for like trying to be pushed over by Disney so easily. But at the same time, I guess it would be easier, to cheer them on if they actually did have more billion-dollar blockbusters in the caliber. Because I mean, just this year alone, or this summer alone, they had Spider-Man and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is still doing very well. So I'll give them that. But Men in Black, that flopped. Uh, on top of it not being a good movie, it just did nothing at the box office. And I guess you could say Jumanji, well, not even I guess, that is a huge hit for them, but I guess we'll see how that pans out later on this year.
Mm. I mean, it's
Um,
gotta do good. You have The Rock playing Danny DeVito.
yeah, that actually has me really excited to see. And with Kevin Hart playing Donald Glover, or Danny Glover rather, that looks hilarious. Um, but yeah, it just seems like at the end of the day, nobody really wins because all you're doing is pissing off the fans here. And yeah, I don't know. I still think since negotiations are still going on, I think by the end of the year we'll hear more like, oh, Spider-Man is back in the MCU now. They'll reach an agreement just because if they don't, they're leaving free money on the table, and they're both too smart for that.
Yeah. Especially like I think this whole tactic of Disney like releasing the deals, like especially when I don't even think negotiations are over yet. They're still
Hmm.
negotiating. I think them releasing it this early is just like a tactic for them to like bully Sony into like bringing Spider-Man back into the MCU.
Right.
And then like you have like some fans on like saying like, oh, Disney bought 20th Century Fox for X-Men. Now they'll buy Sony. Please don't buy Sony, Disney. Stop now, please.
I, Truth be told, I don't even think Sony would be willing to sell. At least not their film division. But yeah, nah, that if Disney does even try to make an offer to buy Sony, then I think that's when the claims of Disney being a monopoly will actually start having some fruition to it.
Mhm.
That's just too much.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is it's got me aggravated because it just comes down to money, and it's like, come on, guys, you had a good thing going here. Everybody was happy. Everyone was getting paid. Let's keep the train going now.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like you said, like Disney, they're a very powerful company right now, so they can get their will somehow, some way, they will. Um, and yeah, let's see how it goes from here. I don't think they will make a third Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland if they do. If they don't go through with the deal, because his whole character is based off Tony Stark, and
Yeah,
how are you gonna have him in another movie when you can't mention Tony Stark?
Yeah, that's gonna be really interesting to see.
Yeah. If anything, it'll be like a massive train wreck where like they have to pretend nothing from the first two movies ever happened.
Yeah, because
Um,
you can't even talk about the snap or any of that stuff.
yep. I mean, it's not like they even talked about it that much in Far From Home, but yeah,
That's weird. I I'm reading Deadline now. It seems like the new thing is that they're fighting over John Watts, the director,
I
because
saw that.
yeah, I guess since Tom Holland he was signed on for a third installment, but John Watts wasn't. So now they're fighting over him. So I don't know. It's a whole mess. Like we'll have more conclusive answers, I guess, once the dust settles and everything. So
Mm. And even Tom Holland had something to say about it at like D23. It was like very
yeah.
short. It wasn't like anything um, controversial or anything. He just
Hmm.
said like, it's been a tough week. Love you guys. Love you 3000.
Yeah.
Poor Tom Holland. Like this is kind of like decide like the future of his career right now. Especially with he's supposed to be in the
Uncharted.
Uncharted movie,
Hmm.
and that just recently fell through because Dan Trachtenberg
Yeah,
dropped
he
out.
dropped out. That, they should. I mean, it's too late now, but they really should just shelf that movie. It's been in
Yeah,
development hell for like a decade now. That's
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, that's just like the way Sony makes movies. Like, and they just like tend to drive away a lot of like their creative directors. Like, they don't
Mhm.
want anything. They play everything completely safe.
Yeah.
And so like because of that, they turn out like these really generic and boring blockbusters or these giant messes
Hmm.
of movies. That's some of them like still somehow make money. Like I don't know how Venom made any money. Granted,
I,
I didn't see it, but at the same time, like from what I hear, like how did people think that was cool?
I mean, I still get into arguments. Well, not even arguments. A lot of people just try to convince me that no, it's a fun movie. I honestly, I thought it's like on level of Catwoman or the first Daredevil movie,
Hmm.
but it made $800 million. So I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, just Sony doesn't know how to start up franchises, and it's
Mhm.
really sad to see. Especially because like they own some really interesting properties, like Men in Black. I would have loved to see like another one, but
Yeah.
they siphoned what's the director's name again?
F. Gary Gray.
F. Gary Gray. Like they start like there was a whole dispute behind that, where like the producer had the final cut, and they kept on like reshooting stuff, and then
Hmm.
Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson had like their own dialogue writers.
Yep.
Even Ghostbusters was a huge mess, especially like when it came to
Ugh,
marketing that movie. They
that was
marketed that movie
terrible.
terribly.
That first trailer was just god awful.
Yeah, all the trailers were bad. Like overall, I think the movie is fine. It's okay,
It,
but like the way they marketed it was a terrible way of marketing.
well, I really call out that first trailer because I remember they tried to play it off like it was gonna be a sequel.
Uh huh.
Because it was like after all these years, who's gonna answer the call? And then it turns out it's like, well, no, it's a reboot. And not only is it a reboot, but we're gonna make the exact same movie as the original Ghostbusters.
Hmm.
It's like, god damn it. But yeah, no, that was a mess. And even James Bond, I feel like they kind of run into the ground now. At least with Spectre, that was I still think that's a big mess for them. But
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Spectre either, which is a shame because like Skyfall was probably my favorite of the Bond
mm,
movies. But then like Spectre just like went downhill and like it went away from like everything that Skyfall was.
yeah,
Hopefully
just
this newest one, No Time to Die,
yeah, I
is
like the
really good.
title.
Yeah, it's like the first of the Daniel Craig movies to have like a Bond title.
Title, yeah.
Yeah, because all of them were like they're titles, but like, they're not like the Bond ones, like
Hmm.
Die Another Day
You're
or
right.
You Only Live Twice or whatever that one was.
I mean, nothing beats Octopussy, but that's for another day. But
um. So yeah. So overall, the snooze is I mean, at least for not for everyone except for me, it's disappointing.
mhm.
Because like I said, I could care less about this version of Spider-Man. I want more Spider-Verse movies.
Yeah.
Um. But yeah, so it's sad to see Sony backing out the deal. Hopefully, they can come out of it and make Spider-Man profitable on their own.
Yeah. And when the news first broke out, my whole thing, I even texted you. I was like, "God damn it, I hate Sony now." I was being pretty facetious, but I was actually really my anger was directed towards Sony. The more news that came out, it's like it's both their faults. I blame mostly Disney now, but yeah, at the end of the day, I don't even care whose fault it was. I just want something good to come out of it. And
Mhm.
that PR statement they released, that Sony released, kind of BS. It was like oh well, Kevin Feige, he has so many properties now. He's just way too busy. It's like, really, Kevin Feige, way too busy. Like, this
Mhm.
dude, since the first Iron Man, he's been building all this, and Spider Man is his favorite character. Now he's too busy. It's like, sure, guys, but yeah, at the end of the day, let's just get another deal going, please the fans, make your money, and I know that's what you guys want.
Yep. So from there, let's jump into what came out this weekend. We both saw two different movies. So Janet, I'm gonna let you go first and talk about Angel Has Fallen.
Ugh, yeesh. Yeah. Yeah, so this thing. Um so I'll say this off the back that I haven't seen Olympus Has Fallen nor London Has Fallen. This is my first Fallen movie that I actually paid to see.
I saw Olympus Has Fallen when it first came out. I barely remember anything about it, and I never saw London.
Do you at least remember if you liked it the first one or no?
I probably did. I was young. I liked everything.
Yeah,
When did the first one come out? 2013.
I believe so, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, at the time I was probably like, yeah, it's a fine action movie. I preferred White House Down at the
oh
time.
yeah, that was a good movie too. Well, at least a fun movie. Angel Has Fallen is not. At least to me. Um you have Gerard Butler. He's back protecting the president still, the Secret Service. The president played by Morgan Freeman. Um, and they set up Gerard Butler's character story where he's pretty much. Well, I guess the first one was pretty much Die Hard, but now it's more Lethal Weapon, where he's getting too old for this ish. So now he has to try to become a CIA director. Um, but that falls through when there's a planned assassination attempt on the president. And of course, conveniently, or maybe not, he's the only one left alive. So all eyes are on him. He's blamed for the attack. And now he's on the run and he has to like clear his name and expose the truth. Essentially, you got your typical framed on the run movie in vein of North by Northwest or The Fugitive, but it's not nearly as good as those movies. In fact, this movie, I would say it's pretty much Taken 3, just with better action scenes. Um, yeah, it's not to me, it wasn't an interesting movie. It's those late summer movies where it's like, well, I guess I'll go see it for the explosions and the gunfights, but I'm not going to really latch on to any story or any character elements here. And sometimes, that's fine. You could live with that. I'm willing to turn my brain off for a movie every now and then, but this one, you got me sitting in here for 2 hours and it doesn't get interesting until like the last, I'd say 20 minutes. It's like, I'm nah, man. I can't really recommend this movie to anybody. Um, but then again, the movie, I'm looking at Box Office Mojo. It opened up pretty well to 21 million. So I guess it's working for the fans of the franchise. So good for them, I guess. Um, yeah, the movie is honestly it's just a mess. It kind of exposes itself very early on to whatever twists and turns it might have. It leaves no room for guessing at all, and they add in this whole subplot storyline with Gerard Butler and his dad, which honestly, unless it's something that they explain in the first two movies, it kind of just came out of nowhere for me in this, and it leads to nothing.
That's what I thought when I saw it in the trailer, because I don't remember his dad being in the first movie. And like I said, I never saw the second one, so maybe he popped up somewhere in there. But just like, what does your dad have to do with all this?
Honestly, at least with this movie, not a damn thing. He honestly adds nothing to the story. You get one funny scene with him. I feel like they built his character just around that one little set piece, and then yeah, nothing after that. And then I wrote this on my letterbox review, where you know the premise of the movie, you're dealing with U.S. politics, like that's the whole plot, sure, but they really go out of their way with these freaking half-ass Trump references, and it every time I see a movie where they have to mention "Let's make America great again" or anything to deal with any of Trump's shenanigans, it honestly it kind of pisses me off. Um, I think Captain Marvel they threw in a Trump reference in that too. That was just like so unearned and so unnecessary. Just Anyways, yeah, this movie does it, and it's annoying. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like it's nothing I walked away too impressed with. But if this is your thing, where you don't really care for story or characters, you just want to see things blow up, you get it for the most part. Um, you might end up having a fun time with it. For me, I was bored from beginning to end. So yeah, I didn't really care for it, but that's just me.
Well, Jalen, it seems like you would have rather have seen Ready or Not.
Yeah, it sounds
Um,
like it.
because Ready or Not is a whole lot of fun.
Ah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, what is this movie about? So, this woman gets married to this man she's really in love with. He comes from a rich family, and they have this empire of board games. And so they get married, and then the night they get married, they had to play a game. It could be any game. It just gets picked at random. But if they play hide and seek, then it gets deadly. Um, the magical box picks hide and seek, and so now they have to hunt her and kill her and sacrifice her to Satan. Yeah, the plot is weird. It's wonky, and the movie just owns up to it. Especially when you meet like the family members, because
mm,
they're all, I wouldn't say cartoonish, because I feel like everybody uses that in a negative term, but they're all exaggerated a little bit.
okay.
And so just like you get a lot of like really great laughs from like a lot of the family members. You have like this one sister, she's like really overly energetic and overly friendly, and
Mm.
so then like when the game starts she keeps on messing up. I think it's in one of the trailers, like she shoots one of the maids in the
Oh
face.
yeah, yeah. That did get a laugh out of me when I saw that.
Yeah, so she just keeps on messing up like that, and it's a really funny running gag. um And even the father, like he's like constantly freaking out because they can never find her, and it's so funny. And I didn't expect this to be as funny as it was. I expected more of a straightforward thriller, but
Mm.
when you get something as silly as Killer Hide and Seek, where they have to sacrifice the bride to Satan, like yeah, it definitely benefited from the jokes and from the comedy.
That's good.
Yeah. And then when you just get down to like, the actual like, trying to find the girl and stuff, a lot of it is really tense. There are a lot of moments that will keep you on the edge of your seat, and none of that is like ruined by comedy. You see that a lot in movies nowadays, where, like they're like building up to a serious moment and then they ruin it with a joke.
Mm.
Luckily with this, like that never happens. Like they know when to have their funny moments and when to have like their really tense edge of your seat moments. Um, and like the last thing I'll say about it is just like I really enjoyed a lot of like the character work, which I found surprisingly good. There are just like a lot of moments, especially like with the bride and the groom. And it's like he's like, oh, I have to do this or else I'm gonna die, and then we just have to play along, blah blah blah. And so it's just like there's like these really great moments, like when they're sitting and contemplating, like, am I gonna be with you after this? I don't know. Or even like the son's like talking with the family, and they're like, this isn't right what we're doing. Like, why are we doing this?
Right.
And then the ending is so good. It's like building up to this ending, and then it happens, and it gets a really good laugh from the whole audience. Because it ends in a way you're gonna kind of expect, but it does it in such a unique way,
Okay.
and I really liked it. So yeah, Ready or Not gets a thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed it, and the more I think about it, the more I like it.
Oh, that's good. Uh, Actually, I was looking forward to seeing this movie. Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing a bunch of good things about it, so I'm really glad you liked it. I check it
Yeah,
out sometime this week.
yeah, I 100% recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So from there, let's jump into what we saw this week. Jalen, what have you seen?
Yeah. So, if you could just let me get some room here, so I could do the "Oh yeah." That's the Entourage theme song. I saw the Entourage movie again, probably for like the 10th time now. Um, I think, what was I talking about? The show, was that like the first two episodes? Maybe I said I started the show again. And
I
I've
could have
been.
sworn that was recently.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I've lost
Uh,
track.
yes, we yes, we've done a lot of episodes, Alex, this whole summer.
We have.
But yeah, I mean, this whole summer I've just every summer it's my tradition to watch through the show again and again, and I was able to finish it so I could watch the movie. And yeah, I went to go see it when it came out. I was literally the only person in the theater to go to see it. Um, and it did get a lot of bad reviews, but I was like, I don't care. I love the show. I'm gonna go see the movie. And I liked it when I saw it. Watching it yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, I liked it even more. Um, you got the same crew back. You got Vincent Chase, who made his comeback. He's a very top billing actor now, and now he wants to make his jump into directing a feature film. Um, and I think the whole joke with it, well, just throughout the series, whenever they show like the movies that they're making, it's like a running joke that the movies look pretty average or generic and bad. In this movie, the film that Vince is trying to make is like a reimagining of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's just called Hyde, and I don't know how to explain what it looks like. You just have to see a trailer for it, but it looks very stupid. But there's a lot of hype that's going around it, except that Vince is over budget, but he still needs more money to fund it. And so pretty much that's the whole plot around this is Vince trying to get the money to finish the rest of his movie. And you have his ex agent who's now the studio head who's funding the movie with for him. His studio is experiencing a profit loss in this quarter. So the tension's rising. There's a lot riding on this movie succeeding. If it doesn't, then they're all just screwed out of Hollywood. And that's what I really liked about this movie and the show in general. I just like how it really gives you insight as to how the industry really works, just how movies get funded and how scripts are found and produced and bought. How actors, they're 1 minute they could be on top of the world, the next minute they're just blackballed from the entire industry. Um, and yeah, they really do a good job at really educating you just like exactly how Hollywood operates as a business. And for me, just being a big fan of filmmaking and Hollywood in general, it's become really educational for me. And that's where I get most of my insight as to how budgeting works, how financing, how a producer operates on set and off set. Um, and yeah, I mean, this movie, you look at the trailer, it's like, okay, it's just four douchebags living their life in Hollywood. But it's really just a story about loyalty, being loyal to your bros, and just making the best of where you come from, no matter where you're from. Because these guys, they're four dudes from Queens. They came from nothing, and now they're making movies in Hollywood. And for me, as a dude from Queens who inspires to make movies someday, you can imagine why I grew attached to it so well. So yeah, Entourage movie. I doubt we'll get a sequel, which I think is unfair considering that Sex and the City got two movies, but I guess that made more money and has a bigger fan base. But if we don't get a sequel, I'm content with how they wrapped everything up here. And yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the series or the movie, I definitely recommend it. Just if you're, like I said, if you're interested in Hollywood and the industry, check it out. If not, no harm done. I still love it.
Sex and City and Entourage, two movies that Mark Kermode has gone on infamous rants about.
Oh yeah, yeah. He hated this one. I remember.
Oh yeah, he was like not screaming, like he was just like going on and on and on about this. I think I've talked about this one on the show before, but like if you really want to see like a really good Mark Kermode rant, so he was ranting for Pirates of the Caribbean 3, because like he's like over here ranting and ranting and ranting, and then Simon Mayo is just like reading a newspaper as he's ranting. He's like, yeah, okay, just keep going. And he hates on the Pirates franchise so much, like and like that's not a great franchise, but like first two are good. The first one's great. The second one's really good. Third one is a bit of a mess. Fourth one I barely remember. And then the last one sucks.
Yeah, I would say specifically like the third one, it was just, or even the second and third one, they're just way too bloated, but they're
Agreed.
still fun. And then yeah, the last two is just like, yeah, right, Johnny Depp, just go home, please.
Yeah, especially the director. What's his name again? It started with a G. G something.
For the
Uh,
last one,
no, for the first three.
oh, wasn't it Jerry Bruckheimer?
No, it wasn't him.
Hmm.
He recently came out with the movie with Dane DeHaan, um, the one where he's like in a mental hospital or something. Gore Verbinski.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
He did Ringo.
yeah. Like his directorial touch on those movies is like really great. Like the way the cinematography, like the great blend between like practical effects and CGI, and just like
Hmm.
the action scenes, how crazy those are. Even
Yeah,
Lone Ranger, which I haven't seen in a while and I barely remember, but like it gets hated on. But, like everyone always says, the movie sucks. That final action scene is amazing.
I don't even remember that, but yeah, it was a long time ago, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't know. At some point, I plan on rewatching that movie because like some people are like looking back and saying, "Oh, actually, it wasn't that bad." Um, but we'll see. Um, so this week I saw 8.5, directed by Federico Fellini. Because I need to watch more old movies. I sat myself down. I'm like, Alex, watch an old movie. You watch too many of the new stuff. So in 8.5, so at the time when Federico Fellini was making this movie,
Mm,
um, he had like he just didn't want to make a movie at that point,
mhm.
and he had just had no idea what to do next. He had run out of ideas, and so then he said he had the brilliant idea of making a movie about a guy who doesn't know what to do with his movie. I remember I saw the opening. It's like in my high school film class, the teacher showed us the opening scene and like we analyzed it and stuff.
Mm,
Um, and it's really it's so the whole thing about the movie is like it bounces from like the real world stuff and like very surreal imagery.
mm,
Almost like David Lynch. Except David Lynch goes like far and beyond with the surrealism in his movies. So the first scene is like a dream sequence where the director's trapped in a car and he's stuck in traffic, and then there's like smoke going up in the car, he's getting suffocated, and then he flies out of the car. And so he's flying over a beach, and then like the producer and like people involved in the film, like just like yank him down, and he's like crashing towards the sea. So that lets you know, like, directly, like from the beginning of the movie, like what this movie's about. It sets the tone perfectly, and it's like you have like multiple sequences throughout the movie where it's like doing flashbacks to like the director's past. The director's name is Guido, which sounds a lot like Greedo from Star Wars. And that's just like what I kept on thinking every time he's like, "Hey, Guido, Guido, what's up, Guido?" I'm like, "Where's Han? He's gonna shoot you." Han shot first.
Yeah, right. As always.
Yep. Um, but yeah, it's like there are a lot of sequences like they jump in between like realism and fantasy, which is like his trademark. Because but other than this, I've seen what did I see? La Strada.
Mm,
And that one isn't anywhere near as surreal as 8.5. Like it does have its moments where it's like it does run on like a dream logic.
right.
There's even like one scene in that movie where it makes no sense in the movie as a whole. Like it's just like it's in there and like I'm sure there's some sort of meaning. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Mm,
Where like the main woman in the movie goes to a room, starts like clowning around, like all the kids around her acting weird, and there's like a sick kid in a bed. Because that's Fellini's aesthetic. Like he puts like what he'll do is like he has a dream journal. Like every time he goes to bed, he wakes up, writes down his dream, and like he'll try to integrate that into his movies somehow.
mm,
So like all these movies are really like a reflection of like what's going on in him, like his thought process and whatnot. And that definitely shows a lot with 8.5 because it's a movie about a director who has no idea what to do next. He's making this sci-fi movie, and like there's so many things he wants to put into this movie. He wants to make it about Catholicism, about his childhood, and then it's like the sci-fi movie about like a dystopia, nuclear wasteland. And it's just like this guy. He's doubting himself because he doesn't know what to do with this movie. He has no idea how to make a great movie.
yeah.
He's struggling because he's doubting every single aspect of this movie and every single aspect of himself. Especially like with his personal life when it comes to like him and his wife and like the affair that he's having. All that just like plays into like his mindset during making the movie.
Mm,
And it like from what I hear, it's like a lot of people say this is the best movie about filmmaking because it just like it goes to show like the struggle of like trying to make a film while also like balancing your own personal issues, which I
right.
found really interesting.
Yeah, that does sound interesting.
So yeah, so 8.5. It's on the Criterion channel. If you have it, I highly recommend it.
Cool. I remember I haven't seen the movie myself, but yeah, I know it's highly regarded, and I know that I don't remember. I think it was Rob Marshall. He might have made a remake of it called Nine.
Hmm.
I think yeah, Daniel Day Lewis was in it, and It was a lot of people. Penelope Cruz. I think Fergie was in it actually too. Um,
It
but
was Rob Marshall. I didn't even know there was a remake of this.
yeah, yeah. So I remember when it came out, and well, I didn't have any plans on seeing it at all because it was nothing I was interested in. But I remember my family they were talking about. I was like, yeah, this movie sucks.
Mhm.
So from what you're saying, I might as well just watch the original then.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting to make something like 8.5 because that's something that's so personal, like
Hmm.
that's a reflection of the director's mindset at the time.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna remake it, then like I feel like you'd have to be in a similar mindset. I don't know if they just remade it for the sake of remaking it, but it's
Hmm.
one of those movies where like it's clearly like a reflection of what's going on in the director's head at the time.
Right. I mean, just from that pitch sale alone, that sounds something that I would be very interested in watching. So, yeah. Well, now that school is starting up, I don't know when I would have the time to watch it, but I'll set it aside some time.
Yeah, we have no time for anything now that school's coming up. It's nothing but work, 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 and then they're like, oh yeah, we have a podcast, don't we? Oh wait, we didn't see anything this week. Yeah, so then we'll come on the podcast like, so Jalen, what paper did you write this week, and how did that take a toll on your mental health?
Then that podcast would probably go on for like at least 3 hours then.
And then we'll go on for like way too long. It's like, oh wait, don't we have another paper to write? Oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah, guys, it's been the Film School Snobs. We're out.
So Jalen, what else did you see this week?
Yeah, so actually just like a few hours ago or 2 hours ago, I sat down and I watched the Hip Hop Beyond Beats and Rhymes. Um it's a documentary by a dude named Brian Hurt who I don't know if you ever seen he did a documentary about soul food. I think it was actually just called Soul Food, but that documentary it had a lot of play in my household as an African American, young African American dude. Uh, I'm pretty sure in your Spanish family, your family probably cooks to kill you. uh, just yeah, that documentary kind of like set a precedent for like what we should actually start bettering ourselves. And with this one here, the Hip Hop Beyond Beats and Rhymes, he kind of does the same thing where he takes a look at something that's highly regarded in our community and is able to flip it on its head and say, as amazing as it is and as influential as it's been in our culture, let's also take a look at it and look at the harm that it has also implemented on our culture. And he takes a very interesting approach because, well, I'll just start off saying I'm a huge hip hop head. Like, I love everything from the 90s, even till now. There's not a lot of artists that's big mainstream wise that I would say I'm a fan of, but just hip hop in general, the whole culture of it, I'm a huge fan of. So yeah, just expressing my love for it because, and Brian Hurt too. He also is very much in love with hip hop as a whole. Um, but I really hate when you have like Fox News or something, they'll come in and say like, "Oh yeah, hip hop, it's done much more damage to the African American community than racism." It's like, okay, that's just retarded. But
Very much so.
yeah, and so he Brian Hurt comes in and it's like, well, no, hip hop, it's given these disenfranchised people a voice to be heard and able to express themselves through the freedom of speech. However, you also do have the pockets of hip hop where it's been very misogynist. It's put down our women and in favor of just making a catchy song. Um, and not only to women too, but also to like the LGBT community. Like there's a whole scene where he's talking with Most Def and Busta Rhymes and Talib Kweli, and he's asking him. He asked them, "When do you guys think we'll ever see a gay rapper?" And Busta Rhymes, and I'm a fan of Busta Rhymes too, but he kind of took it like to really hard. It's like, no, we will never see a homosexual in hip hop. It's like, whoa, dude, like, you know, I didn't realize we could be so homophobic like this. That's kind of it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah.
Are there any famous LGBTQ rappers right now, or
Uh,
are the majority of them straight?
Majority are straight, but we're getting more and more like Tyler the Creator. He came out as gay a few years ago. Um, Little Nas X, who I'm sure you've heard with the Old Town Road
Oh
song.
yeah, that's that song that's been like drilled into everybody's brains. Yeah, because like I mean, as soon as I asked that question, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Lil Nas, that's right.
Yeah, he has like 70,000 remixes of that one song out right now.
Hmm.
I'm not a fan of. I mean, I'll say I'm a fan of him because you actually look at his Twitter. He's like a real humble dude, and he talks and interacts with his fans and stuff. So he's really cool, I think. But the music, I'm not a fan of from him.
Hmm.
But yeah, you more and more you are seeing more LGBT artists coming into hip hop, and I think that's cool because hip hop's been around for decades now, since the '80s or even '70s, early '70s, and not that it's getting stale. You're always going to have interesting stories to talk about, but now with more LGBT artists coming in, you have new perspectives and new stories to hear from their side. Um, I think that makes for interesting music, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, like this whole documentary, I really enjoyed it, and I guess now I can say I'm a fan of Brian Hertz. Now that I've watched his two movies here, and just how he's able to take concepts where, like I was saying, it's something that's very detrimental to our community and helped so many people find their voice, but at the same time is able to be very diplomatic about it and not try to sugarcoat how how dangerous it can also be for other people within the community. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, hip hop beyond beats and rhymes, I definitely recommend giving it a watch. Even if you're not into hip hop, maybe this would give you a new perspective on it and a new appreciation for it and the artist there. Because yeah, well, and I guess I'll end off saying like not everybody in hip hop is a homophobic misogynist. Like especially today, we are seeing a lot more feminist rappers and rappers who are actually speaking for gay rights and whatnot. So we are getting better, but yeah, I do appreciate that this documentary exists to take a look at it. So
Hmm.
yeah, I liked it.
Awesome. Yeah, just like misogyny is like definitely been like a big thing that's like a lot of people have discussed in rap. My defense of it has always like I don't say my defense of it, but one thing I will say is like misogyny is just like a big part of music in general.
General, yeah.
Yeah, even like going back to like 70s and 80s, like singers like Led Zeppelin or Van Halen,
Mm,
they also have music that can be very misogynist at times.
yeah.
So it's I feel like it's definitely something that's part of the music industry as a whole, just media as a whole. To be honest,
Oh,
going back to like ancient times, um, you have like misogynist like paintings and like media and like literature and stuff. So like it's
yeah.
something that as a whole we're working on.
Mm,
But yeah, that sounds like a very interesting documentary, and I'll check it out if I can.
just in music in general. Well, within the industry, yeah, but mostly like just how people react to the music. Because even when you look at the Beatles, like the amount of hate that Yoko Ono still gets to this day for breaking up the Beatles, quote unquote. Uh, I honestly think it has much more to do beyond just them not liking her. It seems like it's a lot of misogynistic threats that went against her,
Hmm.
which is very unfair. Um, but yeah, it's just it's sad, but I guess the only thing you can do is go forward and try to improve ourselves.
Yeah, even if you look at like certain artists, like it's like a lot of people tend to like hate anything that like teenage girls love.
Mm,
So like everybody hates One Direction, everybody hates Justin
uh,
Bieber,
mm,
everybody hates Taylor Swift, and I don't like their music particularly, but I'm not gonna hate on it because someone else likes it.
yeah,
I have coworkers and family members and friends like they all like that music. And that's fine. That's whatever. It's not my personal cup of tea.
yeah.
Um, but yeah. So yeah, like I said, sounds very interesting.
Mm.
So from there, I'm going to talk about a TV show that's streaming on Netflix that recently went into its third season. Glow. So Glow is about a group of women. They're in a wrestling show called Glow, which stands for the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. It's the only time I've ever considered watching WWE, to be honest, because I've always just like had a distaste for it. I don't know why, because like I've seen it a couple times as a kid. I'm like, this is so fake. I know it's so fake. Like this is like the
That's
first
the
time. Like,
appeal.
what do you say?
I said that was the whole appeal, because it was so fake.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because like when I first started watching the show, like I saw these characters dressed up as like these really weird, wonky characters, and like they made wrestling the show seem really fun. So I'm like, huh, maybe I should watch WWE someday. I still have yet to get around to it. Apologies. Um, but overall, like the first two seasons I thought were really good. Nothing like mind-blowingly great. But like it was just like pretty fun. It was something I had on to watch. I'm just like binge watch when I was bored. It has Allison Brie from Community, who I really enjoy. I really enjoyed her in Community. She was really great as Annie. And then she's in this. What's your character's name again? Ruth. There we go. That's her name. She's Ruth, and her wrestling character is Zoya, the Soviet Union soldier. So keep in mind, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it takes place in the 80s. So a lot of it is
Yep.
around like 80s centric stuff.
Right.
Like even the first season, the guy who's directing the show, he's like a movie director, and he had this great idea about this guy who falls in love with his mom. So he like time travels, and he ends up like seeing his mom in the past, and then like he's like describing the movie to people, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that's Back to the Future," like because it took place in 1985, so everybody's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I saw that movie, Back to the Future." Um, so into its third season. Right now they're off TV, but they're in Vegas and they're performing live in Vegas. In like one of those like casinos, where like there's like gambling and showgirls and whatnot.
Mm,
And overall, I've gotten like I'm like halfway through the last episode right now, and overall, I think it's once again really entertaining. I enjoy a lot of these characters. I think they're a lot of fun to follow. There's definitely like a lot of like comedy value in there. Well, I do think it is the weakest of the three seasons, just because I feel like there are a lot of things that get started, a lot of like character arcs and character drama that get started, and then it feels like it hasn't gone anywhere yet.
right.
And I'm in, like I said, I'm halfway through the last episode, so there's no way it's gonna pay off in the last 15 minutes. But like there are certain things like I really would have liked to see them follow through with, and had like more of a satisfying ending to. So yeah, so overall, yeah, like I said, the weakest of the three seasons, but still pretty enjoyable, still a fun watch. I just wish I had like it, had more satisfying arcs or more satisfying payoffs to these arcs.
Hmm. Yeah, sounds like that's like the formula for all these Netflix shows now. Because whereas like the first season's amazing, second season's still enjoyable, but not as good as the first, and then the third season, it's like yeah, it's good, but I prefer the first two. Because we were saying the same thing about Stranger Things a few weeks ago, and I don't watch the show, but my mom, she's a big fan of 13 Reasons Why,
Mhm.
and that's like her exact sentiment. It's like I love the first season. Season two was corny, and season three is just downright awful now.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, they usually came out season three, didn't they?
hmm
Yeah, I
yeah, I don't
never.
know what's going on in that show.
I mean, I've seen like clips of it, and it just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, but I mean, Netflix, they're very wonky because even with the whole El Camino movie, I'm hyped for it, but it's like, Netflix. I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from any movie per se from Netflix. I mean, Roma was pretty great. Other
Mm.
than that, do they have anything that really stands out in terms of films?
Beast of No Nation was very good.
Mhm.
But yeah, with that and Roma, those are movies that were bought by Netflix rather than actually made by Netflix. So I don't know if I'll count those, but
Yeah, Oakja I really enjoyed. I thought that was really
Ocho
good.
is good too. Speaking
Yeah,
of his new movie Parasite, I really want to see very badly.
yeah. There's a lot of buzz about it online, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. What else did they come out with? They're making The Irishman later on this year.
Oh yes,
Martin
she's
Scorsese, that guy, out of like everybody from like the movie Bratz generation, George Lucas, Coppola, Spielberg, he's the only one like still banging out classics right now. Wolf of Wall
yeah.
Street, masterpiece. Silence, masterpiece.
Mhm.
So I'm really looking forward to Irishman.
I I think that one's that could change my whole like mindset on how Netflix operates with their films. Because I mean, it's Scorsese, like you said, the dude puts out hit after hit. I don't think I've ever seen a Scorsese movie that I didn't at least enjoy.
So I think from right there is where we're gonna end today's episode. Jalen, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you could find me on Letterboxd or Reddit at jmike127.
Okay. You can find me on Letterbox. Look up Alexander Zepeda, Zepeda. And then follow me on Twitter, Jedi Master Alex. And then you can follow us on Instagram at the Film School Snobs, and then email us at thefilmschoolsnobs@gmail.com if you have any comments or questions. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Later.